Hi, Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and welcome to another short video. And this video is about the importance of CPD. Now you might think, well, hey Steve, you've done a couple of videos on those, you've done a couple of blogs on them as well, and you may or may not be aware of those. So they're on my blog site at ranksuccess.co.uk or on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube Rank Success. And or you can whip across to my podcast, which is Rank Success Podcast, and you can listen to that on Anchor, Spotify, or however you choose to listen to your podcasts. But the reason I've decided to kind of revisit this subject today is because I've been coaching people in the last week and perhaps 10 days, and together with some of the phone calls I've had over a period of time, it is quite clear to me that it's a recurrent theme that when we have a discussion, a coaching conversation, a conversation with a purpose, where I'm looking to identify knowledge gaps and to see where people are at any one time in terms of readiness for promotion. The stunningly simple question, could you tell me what you're doing to develop yourself, creates a bit of confusion. People are not quite with it, and so therefore the central importance of your CPD is something I would like you to focus on and to really take to heart and be able to have a conversation around. And the reason for that, which I touch on in other videos, is the College of Policing spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources on a leadership review, and the number one recommendation of that leadership review was that all existing leaders take responsibility for driving their own development. Now, I'm not going to get tired of banging that drum, because when people say to me, well Steve, do they just think these promotion questions up? Do they just pluck them from thin air? And I've actually had people say that, oh, I wonder what they're going to think up this time. And if you think about it and slow time down, I often talk about hitting the pause button and just slow time down a little bit and think about it. Is it really that simple? Do they really just think up questions just to frustrate you? And I know it can seem like that, but if you do a little bit of work, if you do a little bit of reading and some research, and I do a lot of that for you, so my toolkits, my digital downloadable toolkits are comprehensive preparation toolkit to help you prepare effectively for promotion boards. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials you can look at from successful officers who've gone through recently and over the last couple of years since I've been doing this. And I'll leave it to you to read what they say as to whether it helped them. But it certainly doesn't make sense for you if you're sat there wondering these same things. Where do they get these promotion board questions from? How can I make sure I prepare effectively to give myself the best chance? Well, it's already written down in a toolkit, or you can download a video masterclass with me, suited and booted, with my serious head on, talking about all things promotion, so that you can raise your awareness and present ultimately the best version of yourself on the day, which is what this is all about. I want you to succeed. That's why I do these videos. It's why I write the blogs. It's why I do the podcast. It's why I do the YouTube video, and it's all free. The only thing that I charge for is the toolkits, which are my premium products. But everything else is free, and you'll see lots of testimonials from officers who gave themselves a 12-month run-up and started looking at some of the free stuff, and then were able to make a decision as to whether they wanted to download the toolkit, but they got through their promotion process, which looks different in different forces at different times for different ranks. So this video today is essentially about CPD, revisiting CPD, and to give you 7 tips just to get started, to get orientated. And those 7 tips start with a gap assessment. So where are you now? Honestly, be honest with yourself. Where are you now? Is CPD double Dutch to you? So continuous professional or continuous personal development, CPD. It is enormously important for you if you're someone who wants to seek a leadership position. And I've done a couple of blogs around what I call the killer question. And the killer question is, what have you done to develop yourself or anybody else in the last 12 months? And it's still a killer question today. And that blog now and that video, or those videos, last time I revisited this a couple of years ago, is still as current today when I talk to promotion candidates who are busy cops. They just want to get on with it, but getting on with it is sometimes around raising your own awareness, not only of the fact you're doing something to develop yourself, which is taken for granted really. It's just taken for granted that you are doing what you can to develop yourself. You're improving every day. You've got a plan to do that. Yeah. Here's the best thing. Yeah. Nobody really cares about that in terms of a promotion context. In terms of the context of a promotion board, people are more interested in what you're doing to develop other people, because you're putting yourself forward for a formal leadership position as sergeant, inspector, chief inspector. So it's not unreasonable to ask, what are you doing to develop other people? What have you done in the last 12 months to develop others? And it's a key part. So if you get a question like that, by all means spend a minute or so telling them, look, I do have a CPD plan, I take it seriously, I'm either doing some external study, I'm doing a diploma, or I love reading about A, B, C, D, or share your passion with the board. How are you improving? How are you getting better? And then the rest of the time spend talking about how seriously you take the development of others, how as a sergeant you will take seriously the development of your own team members. As an inspector, you'll make sure your sergeants are doing that for their teams, but also that your sergeants are learning and growing and developing with your support. And as a chief inspector, are those policies in place? Are those working practices in place to ensure that broad support across your team, across your teams, which may include force-wide or virtual teams? And it's difficult to kind of monitor all of that, but delegation is one way of working effectively and strategically. So this is one way in which you can do that, in terms of getting people to take their own CPD seriously, but more importantly to ensure that people are being led by also being supported and having that opportunity to learn and to grow and develop. So the 7 tips that I talked about earlier on, the first one is that gap assessment. Compare where you are now against where you want to be, or where, in light of what I'm saying, you should be ready for presentation, ready for a promotion preparation. And you can do that now. You can choose to do that now, and it is a decision. It's a decision to do it. Most people who arrive at a promotion process unfit or not match fit, if you like, for that conversation, for that interview, have only themselves to blame. And I say that in a supportive and encouraging way, not a critique. Because there is so much out there, you couldn't possibly read everything there is out there. So that's why I kind of refine and distill it in my articles, in my blogs, and specifically in my toolkits. That's manna from heaven for you to be absorbing. Your time's precious, so why waste it reading anything that's not valuable? The only thing that's valuable is the content in the toolkits. So you have options, you have choices, you have the opportunity. I would say the 2 words I often say to people is, if you're going for promotion, start now. Start now, because that's a simple, effective strategy for promotion success. And you whip across to my testimonials and have a look at the reviews and just see the people that took that as their strategy for success. So gap assessment first. You really do need to know and understand where you are now, and you may well be in a good place. You may well have a CPD plan. It's just about refining it and distilling it and getting it on a par with what's expected of you as a sergeant, as an inspector, as a chief inspector, and where are the gaps. So the gap assessment is really good, and you can take that, just get a notepad and paper and just scratch out your own thoughts. So that's the first part. The second part is identify your specific career goals. What steps are needed to reach them. Write down the steps, write them down, make them tangible. It's no good whizzing around in your head with everything else you got whizzing around in your head. So write them down, write the steps down, so that when you approach a promotion board, you're clear on what you need to do. And if it's about reading, if it's about getting yourself better, there's lots of things you can do to help, and I've written articles on my blog to help you do that. In fact, all of my blogs help you do that, because you'll pick up different perspectives from each one of them. And then if you really want to hit the last kind of phase of preparation effectively and arrive knocking on that interview door ship-shape Bristol fashion, and in the best kind of mental place you've been in terms of preparation, then by all means have a look at the toolkits. The second thing is gathering information, and I suppose that's where they come in as well. So all the information I've just talked about, blogs, podcasts, I get phone calls from people telling me they're walking their dog on the beach listening to my podcast and just thought they'd give me a call and have a chat. Do you really offer yourself, at the end of the phone to give those tips and those conversations? Yes, I do. I do that because I know that sometimes you can run into a brick wall. You can have that question that really does stick, and you need the answer to unlock everything else. So if I can do that, I will do that. So yes, I've had those calls from people walking their dog, people saying they're listening to my blogs now, and I can tell by listening to the metrics on my blog now that there's not only people in the UK, but there's cops in Australia, America, starting to listen to my podcast, because a lot of it's transferable. It's just about inspiration, motivation, and getting you to the place where you need to be able to have that conversation with a promotion panel who are simply going to trigger your responses by asking some questions. And if you've done this work around CPD, you'll be in a much better position to do that. So gathering information, do you want to develop laterally in the police service in terms of specialist posts, or within CID, or do you want to do something else? Are you clear on that? So what are you doing to get there? Or do you want to develop for promotion? So you want to develop vertically. Develop yourself a vertical plan, if you like, to ascend through the federated ranks, and maybe from sergeant to inspector, chief inspector, or chief inspector further on. What does that involve, and where do you need to be? Again, there's lots of free blogs that you can read. Just subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, and every time I do a video like this, I don't do them all the time, but sometimes I'll wake up, it's a Monday morning now, and I'm here. Some of you that are regular visitors to my blog may notice it's a bit of a change of scenery. I normally do them in my conservatory, but it's raining cats and dogs out there, and it would cause a bit of excess noise. So tip 3, gather information. Tip 4, evaluate your professional skills. What are they? You are a professional. What are your professional skills? Now, you may have accredited skills, so I know that if you're on firearms, if you're on public order, you may have some, if you're investigators, you'll have accredited kind of recognition for your professional skills as to where you are. But what other skills have you got? What are your skills? Write down your skill set. Where are the gaps in that for where you need to be as an effective sergeant? What does that mean to you? What's the role of a sergeant? What's the role of an inspector? How does the role of chief inspector differ from inspector? All of these things are simple questions, but they're not simple if you haven't thought them through, and you don't have a response that can be triggered, if you like, by a question. So gathering information, evaluating your professional skills, deciding on a strategy. So I alluded to that just now. Start now is a great strategy. Most people listen to this will say, meh. No, I won't, Steve. I'll wait until after Christmas. This is this side of Christmas now, a couple of months. I'm going to wait till next year because I know I can do stuff at last minute. And it's an individual decision. It is an individual decision, and you've got lots of other competing priorities. Work life shifts, commitments. You may be involved in some study, as I'm talking about. You've got family commitments. You've got Christmas coming up. Whatever. You're always going to have priorities and decisions to make, but you have to decide on a strategy. And some people, when I talk to them, they say, "Hi, Steve, I'm contacting you because I've got a board in 3 weeks." Oh, congratulations. Let's talk about how you might prepare for that. Oh, hang on, I'm on holiday for 2 weeks before that, and then I'm going to come back and hit the ground. And some people can do that, so I would never rule that out because, it's possible. But as someone emailed me yesterday, it's incredibly competitive now. I am really having a problem. So this individual that I spoke to yesterday is now an acting inspector, but they haven't had any promotion processes in their force for 2 years, and it's all about to kick off in terms of promotion processes. And the phrase they use is incredibly competitive, and that's something that officers sometimes don't think about. That one word, competition. It's a competition. You have to turn up in the very best condition you can. If you're preparing for a boxing fight, you wouldn't just turn up doing your day job and just climb in between the ropes and expect to deliver your best kind of performance as a fighter, as a pugilist, if you like. And the same goes for promotion. And yet some people think they can it's just something else. It's just next Wednesday I've got a promotion board. I'm just going to walk in there, do the best I can. Well, that's fine if you've got another opportunity very quickly after that. But if it's a competition and there are people who have prepared effectively, and more people are, if you like, professionalising their presentation now. And whatever you think about that, whether you get support, guidance, coaching, mentoring, or you just want to read to get yourself better and develop your CPD, Everybody takes a different approach, but having a strategy is important. So be clear on that, what it is, what's your plan to get there, and how do you get there. And if I can help with that, fine. Have a look at ranksuccess.co.uk and have a look at what services and products I offer. They're tried, they're tested, and there is more free information for you to make that decision right now and crack on with than you'll find anywhere else. And there is a method in my madness with that, because I've been there myself. I was a cop for 30 years, or nearly 30 years. I was in the Royal Marines before that, so a little bit of adjustment towards the end of that. But I know what it's like, and I know that when I went for promotion, this kind of support simply wasn't there. Someone just at the end of a channel talking to you, who understands where you are and who understands where you're going to be, and not only that, has helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to do it. So I'm very proud of that. It's what keeps me going. As I said, it's a Monday morning. I'm up relatively early and doing this video because I'm just gathering some thoughts from last week around people's unpreparedness around CPD, and it's a relentless, repetitive theme. So here I am again, just reminding people that it is, and that there are things you can do to get yourself better. Develop a timeline. That's tip 6. So developing a timeline. Where do you want to be in a year? Now, you might have heard this before in coaching and mentoring. Give me a 5-year plan. Well, you might have a 5-year plan, but before that you have to have a 12-month plan, and then a kind of 3-year plan and a 5-year plan, and working back from that 5-year plan, how you're going to move forward. So where do you want to be in a year? So I know that next year, many of you listening to this, and many of your friends and colleagues and peers will have, for the first time ever, 2 opportunities to take the sergeant's exam and the inspector's exam. So that kind of removes a lot of the kind of noise that people say, well, I'm sick of it, I'm tired of it, we only get 1 chance a year and it's so much effort and stress. Well, someone's listening somewhere, because next year you've got 2 opportunities. And what are you going to do on the back of that? So yes, you're going to put all the work that goes into that, and that can be hard. You've got to spend a bit of money to get the books or the courses that you want to get. You've then got to spend all your time. You've got to lock yourself away from your family, use some of your work time on your shifts if you've got supervisors, and protected time to do that. Either way, it's a kind of strain to get there. You get there, you're successful, and then a lot of officers, in my experience, they pass the exam, they get qualified, they waste the first 2 years. I'm just going to get a bit more experience, and yet you decided you're going for promotion, so you've chosen to lose 2 years momentum. And that's okay. That might be part of your plan. That might be part of your strategy. In my experience, I normally get calls from what I call the last chance saloon. Hi Steve, I'm calling you because my exam expires next year, and I've had a go at myself last year and I didn't get through. In fact, I didn't get very good feedback from a board, and I've got 1 chance left. Where did those 5 years go? That's what they asked me anyway, and I can understand how they get there, but where did those 5 years go? Indeed, where did they go? So, commit to it, have a breather after your exam, and then attack the process and the toolkits that I've talked about. The digital downloadable toolkits and masterclass will help you do that in your own time. So you're working on your CPD, so you've got a video on your iPad or your phone, and you're listening to me, my dulcet brummy tones, or looking at the informational content that I refer you to, and you're doing something meaningful that's effective, that's actually preparing you for a promotion selection process. And it's fun. I mean, some people do say to me, Steve, I enjoyed my promotion board. Who enjoys promotion boards? Well, quite a lot of my candidates, actually. If you whip on over to my testimonials and have a look, people report back saying, I've never felt better. I never felt more prepared. So there's something in them that helps you, but just develop your own timeline. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, where do you want to be? And you'll see testimonials on my site of people who have gone, having done exactly that. When I've had that conversation with them, say, well, I'm a sergeant now, I'm going for a inspector, I want to be a chief inspector in 5 years. So that's their plan, that's what they want to do. I want to be a chief inspector. So you'll see numerous examples there of people who have chosen to do that, understood it's possible, and have gone from 3 stripes to 3 pips in 3 years. It's doable. It's doable if you drive your own career and you've got a plan and develop a timeline. So that's tip 6. And number 7, write all of what I've just said down, because you'll forget it. Same as writers, musicians, they like to have a notepad or something handy to write something down. Play this video back, write down the points, and you've got yourself 7 tips towards your CPD plan. But whatever you do, have a think about it. It's important, and you can succeed if you take your own CPD seriously. So first of all, understand what you're doing to develop yourself. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? Get used to kind of talking about it a little bit, even if it's only to yourself. And then what are you doing currently to develop other people? And you don't need to be acting or temporary to do that. Again, you'll see lots of testimonials from successful candidates who didn't get a chance to do acting or temporary. It's highly competitive in their force, and yet they came first on their promotion board. How does that happen? It happens by taking your own CPD seriously and getting to work on it, and starting now as a strategy. So that's some thoughts. I feel like I've got it out now to you. That repetitive theme that keeps surfacing in calls that I get from people and email contact I have with people. But I hope that you've now got some options for you to move forward, and that's what these videos and that's what all my products and services are all about. Wherever you are on your promotion journey, I wish you all the very best, and I'll be back with another video shortly. And until then, take care and stay safe.